Spider-Man in the first row right here.
You sort of see if there's another Spider-Man there.
You can't see the microphone.
Yeah, I'm Italian Spider-Man, and oh, yes, sorry, I can't see very much. On special occasions, I wear a black suit. And first of all, in the name, I think, of every Spider-Man fan, I can say thank you, because it's the very first time we see the Spider-Man that fans deserve. He looks like Spider-Man, he walks like Spider-Man, he talks like Spider-Man, and he can move like Spider-Man. So thank you very much. And I must know. And the question is, why is Jamie Foxx and Dan DeHaan, Harry Osborn and Max Dillon the worst enemies that Spider-Man had to face? Are there ever gonna be some Italian or German enemies, maybe? And a question to Peter Parker, do you have an advice for underpants? Because I'm not sure if I took
Maybe these guys can answer that question and we can talk privately later about your second question.
I think, you know, it's funny, Harry and Max, I don't think they necessarily are the worst villains, you know, but I think they're worthy adversaries. What makes these characters so interesting in the Marvel Universe, in particular, in Spider-Man in particular, is that there's, that the relationships with Peter Parker are much more complex. You know, Max Dillon was Spider-Man's biggest fan before he was his foe. You know, Harry Osborn was his best friend, and it's the complexity of that relationship. Especially, I think it's interesting when you think about the movie in the context of kids who are seeing it, or sort of engaging with this kind of thing for the first time. I think it's important to introduce some sort of nuance in those relationships, so it's not just good versus evil. But that's why, I think that's why I chose Dane and Jamie, because they can play that nuance, and they can play that kind of characterization with a level of, like you said, nuance and flexibility.
But we are pretty powerful. We are pretty good adversaries. You know, but I think one thing that becomes really obvious in this film is that all evil, all the bad guys are generating from Oscorp in some way, shape, or form. And Harry Osborn is in control of Oscorp. So in that way, he has the power to build the Osborn army.
The Osborn army, I like that. I think that's a hashtag right there.
That is my hashtag.
And Jamie, what was it like to step onto the set for the first time?
It was interesting for me because my daughter at the time was 4 years old and she was having a birthday party, and it was a Spider-Man themed electricity. She was having Electro speaks. But my daughter was having a birthday party. She was 4 years old and she had a big Spider-Man jumper, and they're all jumping in, and we get the call that I'm going to be in Spider-Man. So she was excited to be on the set.
We're talking about Mary Jane. There was like many things. She was actually cast.
Well, we felt it was really important just to focus on Peter Parker and Gwen's relationship was so fundamental to the story, and we really felt it was important to focus on that storyline because it's the conflict for Peter is so deep. There were so many nuances of that relationship that we just wanted to focus on Peter Parker and Gwen.
How hard is it really to act in such a CGI heavy role?
You know what, to be honest with you, it's not. We talked about this before. It's, you know, all actors or comedians, the first person we act with is ourselves in the mirror, you know. So when you would do, you know, you're working on your piece and you're ready to go audition or whatever, it's you with your script and hey, how you doing? It's all that in the mirror. So it really plays to our strengths because as kids, that's what we all did. We make believe. So I think that the green screen never bothers anybody on this table because when I first saw Dane, you know, deliver his lines, I was like, whoa, this dude is really, he's got that touch. And then I watched them, Andrew and Emma, when they were together, and the way they're doing that thing and they're ad-libbing and flying and doing stuff. So I don't think green screen, whether it's green, blue screen, it doesn't matter. We try to get down.
It was a crux, it was a turning point, and I could feel it. And I knew that whatever decision I made was going to be impactful. Ultimately, it came down to a 3-year-old inside me, screaming and saying, why would you even have to think about this? You have always wanted to be Spider-Man. This is the closest you're going to get to being Spider-Man. I don't care if you're 45 years old. Put on that goddamn suit and get in there and give your heart and soul to it.
Did you ever want to play Spider-Man, or were you?
Well, everyone wants to be Spider-Man. That's why everyone goes to see Spider-Man. You know, and I think, you know, Andrew said something the other night about every kid sees themselves in Spider-Man, sees themselves in Peter Parker, and they inspire them to be heroes within their own communities or their own families or just within their life. Everyone wants to put on that suit. Everyone wants to be Spider-Man. But the fact that I get to try to kill him, I think that's second best, you know? Because when you're playing pretend and somebody's Spider-Man, someone else is the bad guy. So it still comes back to playing pretend as a kid, and it still fulfills those dreams.
What's happened in this time on the costume? You changed the eyes?
Well, yeah, we
What
felt
happened
like it was, you know, I wanted to, how do I put it? I wanted to really protect the iconography of Spider-Man this time around. And last time, I think the suit was, I wanted to make it something that you could imagine a kid creating. And this time around, I just wanted to get it right in terms of what the comic books have presented. And the sort of most important part of that costume was those eyes. So we spent months and months and months trying to build just the right eye and get the proportions to the mask right, and I think we did a really good job of creating that suit. And we went back to a more traditional, iconic suit that we all know and love.
What happened to the big spider bug at the back?
Yeah, well, we kept the spider logo similar from the last movie, but we made some small adjustments to make all the proportions sing.
Hi, I'm Dennis from Germany, and my English is a little bit too bad, so I have to ask in German.
And you have to guess.
Marc, wie kommt es eigentlich, dass Electro im neuen Film so weit von der Originalvorlage weggeht?
He doesn't actually. I mean, we used a different reference in the comics. The Amazing Spider-Man had that green and yellow suit with the star mask, which would have been cool, but a little bit absurd given the world that we're trying to do. But we based it more on the Ultimate Electro. And that with that darker suit, which to me, the insulated quality of it made sense for what we were trying to achieve.
And also too, if you're paying really close attention, like we talked earlier, that Electro is just being born, so he hasn't really figured out what's going on. He actually grabs that suit from someone who was just on the ground, and he just throws it on because he told him, you know, you got to put some clothes on. It would be interesting to actually see him come back and find that. I'm just saying.